Oh, yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Came up from the struggle, now we stacking chips. Black Wall Street, we rebuilding from the pits. Politics and business, we beyond rich. Donnie Glover Show, watch us shift the switch. Donnie Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Spotlight on the hustle when the real ones come. Every episode, dropping knowledge, dropping bombs. Donnie Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Talking black excellence, ain't no exclusivity. History is making, reclaiming our divinity. Break by break, rebuilding our community. Donnie Glover Show, celebrate unity. Donnie Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Spotlight on the hustle where the real ones come. Every episode, dropping knowledge, dropping bombs. Donnie Glover Show by BMOnews.com. From the boardroom to the streets, we making waves. Business minds running, new paths paved. Politicians listen, they know we the brave. Black Wall Street dreams rising from the grave. Donnie Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Spotlight on the hustle where the
we have some stars in the building.
Donnie Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Oh, yo. Oh, yo. Oh, yo, 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 yo.
We'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Special thank you to our executive producer of Be More News in Niagara, Mr. Emmanuel Price. We're up here on, this is the New York side, and that's the Canadian side, and we will be there for the New Year's dropping of the ball or somewhere around here. Very beautiful Niagara Falls, some of the best water in the world. So make sure you get out, get your passport, and do some traveling. And keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Welcome to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Here on Atlantic, Mississippi, with our very dear friend Corey Memphis. A beautiful town, New Orleans. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com. We're going to give you an update. 10 years since Katrina. The news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
Wall Street, we rebuilding from the pits. Politics and business, we beyond rich.
I'd like to welcome you to today's show. We have with us the one and only John Milton Wesley. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
What'd you think of that intro?
I like that. You've grown along. You've grown a lot. I tell you. Congratulations, my brother.
Well, you were there at the beginning.
Yeah. It's amazing when I look at what you've done, Donnie. It's incredible, man.
Well, you had a hand in that. I mean, you kept your foot in my butt.
Well, I have to push you. That was some other pieces. People pushing you too, like the guy who gave you your first job out of school.
First job? Oh, Michael Preston?
No.
Manny Price?
No. I got one for you. Adrian Harpoon.
Oh, snap. That was my first contract.
That's right.
Now, actually, the first contract was actually Diane Bell McCoy.
Diane, yeah, oh, that's right. Empowerment.
Yep, I got my job was to get the Empowerment Zone people on television.
That's right.
But it was my first job as a public information officer, and I had no idea of what a PIO does. What's a PIO?
Well, a public information officer is someone who gathers all the incoming news and synthesizes it, and then shares it with the appropriate people within your office, within your purview, and outside. You help frame the messages that go out to the public.
When I came downtown, it was you and Kevin Brown.
That's right. Kevin Brown sent me out. I was working at housing at the time. I was deputy director of communication. Kevin Brown was director of communication. He said to me one morning, he said, I want you to go down to Crazy John. A young man is coming in there. His name is Donnie Glover. And whatever he's trying to do, help him.
Kevin Brown said that?
That's what Kevin Brown said. He was my boss at the time. Kevin Brown said to me, "Just go down. A young man is going to come. His name is Donnie Glover. Meet him, and whatever he's trying to do, help him do it." I said, "Yes, sir."
Wow.
The rest is history. And you and I met at Crazy John's getting hot dogs.
Well, I remember that meeting. I remember you used to stay in the 3-piece suits and the wingtips.
Yeah, well, that's something that goes back to, when I was growing up, my uncle wore wingtips, and that was this guy, rich Jewish guy that my grandmother had taken care of, and he always wore wingtips. So between he and my uncle, I started wearing wingtips.
Who was Fannie Lou Hamer to you?
Well, Miss Fannie Lou was my godmother. Miss Fannie Lou and my grandmother worked for the same rich white families, and she and my grandfather barbecued for Governor Ross Barnett, J.P. Coleman, John Stennis, James Easel, and those people. Of course, I used to find it so ironic that Ross Barnett was preventing people from, prevented my friend James Meredith from getting into Ole Miss, but he would send his goat up to our house on Wednesdays, and we would cure it, tied up, and then on Friday morning, we would take care of it and start barbecuing it, and then they would always pick it up later that evening for the governor, So being a little kid, I thought, well, wait a minute, he's doing that, but he's doing this. But anyway, yeah, Miss Fannie Lou was my godmother, man, and she was there when I was born. She was there with me throughout. She died March 14th, 1977. So I think the last photograph that I had with her was sitting in her front yard. That was 1968, just before Dr. King was killed. Yeah.
And for those that don't know, her famous quote is,
"I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired."
Sick and tired.
I've heard that line in some 12-step meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
That when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you'll be moved to action.
You'll be moved to action, and that's what I like to be. Most people know about her work in civil rights, but most people don't know about the part in the fields that she did before that. Miss Fannie Lou and an old guy named Doc Warren. Now, I grew up in Ruleville, Miss Fannie Lou's hometown, and I grew up across the street from the Milam brothers, Roy Bryant, J.W. Milam, and Carolyn Bryant, who killed Emmett Till. And Miss Hamer was there. Most people don't know about that part. As a matter of fact, what's his name? J.W. Milam became our deputy sheriff. So the first time an attack was made on Miss Fannie Lou's life, it was J.W. Milam's duty to investigate it. So, but anyway, she was an extraordinary woman, man. She would bring me a birthday cake every December 18th. She'd bring me a birthday cake over to the house, and she would put pecans on it that came from the tree that was in her front yard, So she was an extraordinary woman. She and Doc Warren. Doc Warren lived across the street from the Milam brothers, and in the fields, when they wanted to tell us about the mass meetings, and the Milam brothers were our straw bosses, Dr. Warren would do line of hymns, "I's gonna be a meeting here tonight, 8 o'clock, William Chapel." J.W. Milam would be sitting in the truck, man. They didn't know what we were talking about, But they were extraordinary. They were an extraordinary team. And a quick story about her buddy, Doc Warren. Doc Warren lived across the street, right? So Doc Warren painted his house red, black, and white. People thought Doc Warren was crazy, you know. And he had two steps up on his porch, Donnie, and he would put a yellow light out sometime, and a green light out sometime, and a red light. Well, most people know that Dr. Warren drinking that moonshine or something, you know. But what he was doing when the Marlon brothers were away, and he knew they would be away for a while, he had a green light. The Marlon brothers were about 10 or 15 miles away. He knew about it. He put a yellow light. But when they were in the store with their buddies, he put a red light. I mean, this is the kind of thing that these black people did in terms of leadership, man, in order to reach out. And this is the kind of stuff that I learned sitting at Anita.
She also formed the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Club. Now, I know how to mess that name up.
Yeah, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. She had a brother named Aaron Henry. Aaron Henry was a pharmacist from Clarksdale, Mississippi. And she and him, and along with Lance Guillot. Okay, Lance Guillot. Most people don't know about Lance, but when they went to the Democratic Convention in 1964, Lawrence was in jail. But before Mr. Fannie Lou spoke, Aaron Henry spoke to the Credentials Committee of the Democratic National Convention.
So, and this is Women's History Month. What I remember most about her story, not that she organized black people, ran for president, created a party. What sticks out of my mind mostly is that white men tried to beat her like a man.
Oh, yeah. In Winona, Mississippi, man, after she went and registered to vote, and she was on her way back, and they stopped the bus. They said the bus was too yellow. But anyway, they stopped them and they arrested her. And but here's something very interesting about that story. Mrs. Hamer's husband was Pap Hamer. Okay, Pap Hamer was one of those people that they just kind of considered crazy. You didn't mess with Pap. So most people know about the beating in Winona, but let me point out something to you very interesting about that. The white sheriff, the guy who arrested her, he didn't beat her himself because he was afraid of Pap. But he had two brothers to beat her. Okay? He had two brothers to beat her, and they beat her mercilessly. Okay? I remember when she came home and the clothes, she kept the bloody clothes and all of that, man. And when she came back after that, she was never quite the same. I mean, she had polio earlier, so she had a limp. But when she went in for appendicitis, she and my grandmother were in the same room in the hospital. In fact, when she went in for they removed her ovaries, and that was called a Mississippi appendectomy. Okay, so that's just part of what this lady worked with, man. But it did not deter her, Donnie. It did not deter her. I mean, I talk about the fact that she may be a cop in one day and she may be somewhere, but she came back to the fields with us. Okay, when she came back out, she would come back to the fields. My grandmother passed away when I was 13. I was still picking and chopping cotton, and I went to the fields with Mrs. Hamer. Mrs. Hamer taught me how to pick 200 pounds, man, because she could pick between 300 and 400 pounds. Now, keep in mind,
300 pounds of what?
Cotton. Cotton. Okay. Now check this out. Now it took 70 bowls of cotton to make a pound. Okay. So if you did 100 pounds, okay, you're talking about 700 bowls. Okay, and if she could pick 300 pounds, okay, and she would pick 2 rows at a time, one over here, one over there. And she was smart. She taught us how to take. See, we get there when it was dew cotton early in the morning, and they wouldn't let us start picking because it was too wet. The cotton was too heavy. Okay. So what she taught us how to do was to get 2 sacks when you started, and take that first sack early in the morning way up in the field. Take your row way up. Take that sack and then leave it there. Stack it down, step it down, and leave it there. And then take your second sack and come back down your second row. You would weigh that first sack, the second sack up first, okay, because it had light cotton. And then after lunch, about 2 o'clock, you'd wake up that you would weigh up that sack that you started with that morning because it had that lump in the bottom, and it may have 100 pounds, 80 pounds in it. So then between those 2 sacks, you had already by 2 o'clock, you already had close to 200 pounds. And that was how she taught black people to do
John
that.
Wesley, I don't know a damn thing about picking cotton.
Well, and I tell people don't let the suits fool you, okay? But yeah, man, that was fun. And chopping, man, chopping was the tough part because the chopping that was when you had the most chance of encountering snakes and those kinds of things early in the summer. Uh,
I know about snakes in politics, but I ain't really played with no snakes. In the city, we got dogs, we got rats, we got cats, and we
there
got
are
triggers
snakes
on the
in
corner.
Maryland.
But the snakes are down in politics.
Yeah, well, she dealt with some of those too, man. She dealt she dealt with a lot of politicians, and she was not afraid, man. That when I look at her, Dr. King, these were people who knew that their life was at risk, man. They knew that their life was at risk, Donnie, and they did it anyway.
She had the courage of 10 men.
You better know it. You better know it. I mean, the courage of 10 men and the strength, and she spoke truth to power. Miss Hamer spoke truth to power. And she told them what happened to it's funny. It kind of reminds me of Paul in the Bible. When Paul tells his story, of being beaten and etc. But that was everybody knew that she risked her life, and that's what made her voice so important when she spoke. Then,
John Milton Wesley, when I came downtown, I came to find out that you and Kevin Brown were both writers.
yeah, that's right.
And you
Yeah,
still write. What is writing to you?
writing is a core part of my being, a core part of my ministry, my writing and my music. Um, you know, I go back to down to the days of Easter speeches and Children's Day in school, and my first storyboard, Donnie, was on those little felt boards in Sunday school. Because see, here's a connection for you, Donnie. Donnie, see, in terms of our education, in my little town, whoever the principal of the school was, he was also the superintendent of the Sunday school. Okay, whoever his wife was always head of education, biblical education in our church. So when I saw a storyboard, it was the felt board, and they would put the little, to show distance, they would put the little palm trees way in the back. If they wanted to something that was up close, they would put bigger palm trees, uh, closer to the center. So and when we did those Easter speeches, you had to learn it, you had to memorize your speech, and then you were given an award for doing your speech. Little things like that. Little things like I look at that. My grandmother always left the music to "How Great Thou Art" open on the piano by the door. So whenever I walked in, I saw it. Whenever I left, I saw it. And then the first song I learned to play was "How Great Thou Art." But that music and the writing, my first writing, in the Bible it says a man's gifts will make room for him. Uh, I started writing poetry when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And then when I got to college at Tougaloo, my first mentor was Dr. Margaret Walker Alexander. Dr. Margaret Walker Alexander, who wrote Jubilee, at the time was mentoring Alice Walker. So Dr. Alexander introduced me to Margaret Walker. And the year that she started mentoring me, 1966, Margaret Walker Alexander, was the year she wrote Jubilee. I mean, and for my people. Okay, that's what most people know. She wrote the poem for my people. So that is why a lot of my stuff is long. Well, not all of it, but I do historical poetry where I write about our people. It's the same thing here. One of the greatest things, my accomplishments here, all the stuff I've done, was getting an opportunity working with the Upland Planning Committee, one of the best, and all those people. But I wrote the history of Pennsylvania Avenue and have laid out the historical markers throughout Upton, man. That is being given the opportunity to do something done that will be here in perpetuity.
Then you got to, then if you're going to tell that story, you got to bring up the visionary who was there doing the work first.
George who?
You damn right.
George Gilliam.
You damn right.
Hey, now I know the story. Yes, sir. Yeah, that brother, man, and
George and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Because Stephanie wasn't no punk.
Oh no, man. They helped a lot of people, man, and it was so sad what happened to her. One of the people that she was helping was the person who took her out, man.
George Gilliam, no question. Then before George Gilliam, it was Lena Boone.
Lena Boone. Hey, now you talking. See, Donnie, one of the things that irks me about this city is that we don't call these people names enough, man. Nobody talks about them anymore. Nobody talks about Hattie Harrison. Nobody talks about Martha Benton, man. Iona Pope. I mean, Norman Ross. Mary Ross. I mean, I could just.
I got a name for you.
Who?
Eleanor Fagan.
Eleanor Fagan. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. Miss Fagan, man. Yeah.
They don't know what I'm talking about, John Milton Wesley. I just happened to do my homework last night. Who was Eleanor Fagan?
Well, Eleanor Fagan, if you know where is that? Walbrook Junction. Walbrook Junction. The sister lives in Walbrook Junction.
Oh, John Milton Wesley. What was Billie Holiday's real name?
Billie Holiday's real name. Oh, you know what? Now you just I know it. I did too.
Eleanor Fagan.
Eleanor Fagan. That's what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about the other sister. That is exactly right. Because most people think she was born in Baltimore, but she was born in Philadelphia, and she moved to Baltimore.
Yeah, Eleanor Fagan.
Yeah.
AKA Billie Holiday, born on April the 7th.
That's right.
And she sang that song,
Strange Fruits.
Strange Fruits. My favorite is Them That's Got Shall Get.
And
them that's not shall lose.
Them that's not shall lose. I mean,
for the Bible says, and it still is news. Mama may have and Papa may have.
But God bless the child who's got his own.
Yes, sir. Do you remember just before O'Malley came in?
Yeah.
Do you remember that era in Baltimore? It was the end of the Smoke administration.
Oh, yeah. But you see, I happen to work for Schaefer, so I got a chance to work directly with Du Burns, And then, I've known Kurt since he graduated from Harvard. Yeah, a person very close to me, and they were in the same class. But anyway, yeah, I remember that era very, very specifically. It was such a transition. And let me just say, Donnie, in all honesty, although I love Kurt, I really thought that at the time it wasn't time for Kurt. I thought
My
we,
daddy
I
wanted
thought,
to do Burns too.
huh?
My daddy wanted to do Burns to win too.
Yeah, yes, sir, Ray. Because I thought that it would have given us a chance to maximize the inherent power that we had gained through the Schaefer administration. You know, we were still progressing. And I knew that, people talked about Du Burns, what he didn't have. But Du Burns knew where the bodies were buried. You know, Du Burns understood, and he was having bequeathed to him the power and the presence that Schaefer was leaving behind, as Schaefer was going to become governor. So but anyway, I worked for Kurt. Yeah, I worked for Kurt, and I remember Kurt when he decided he wasn't going to run again. You know, how frustrated he was at the time.
Folks, this is the only show in America where you're going to get bequeathed early in the morning.
I read books, Donnie.
I'm thinking 1999, and I remember it very clearly. The Avenue Market was getting a do-over. They had live jazz at the Avenue every Friday night.
That's exactly right.
Ray Haysbert would come through there.
Crowd of people, Donnie. Crowd of people. And I tell you who was involved, very involved in doing that, Sister Tessa Hill.
Tessa Hill Aston. Every Friday night.
That's exactly every Friday night, man. Every Friday night. And Donnie, when I went to work down there in 2014, and then finally brought the Main Street program back in 2016, that was one of the things that inspired me to do that. I wanted to bring art back. That because see, at one time, Donnie, if you look at Mandamin, at one time the Boston Symphony used to play a Mandamin just about every other Saturday. Man. I mean the Baltimore Symphony every other Saturday, man. People don't know about things like that. But the Avenue Market, man, listen, Pennsylvania Avenue was the economic spine of Black America. At the turn of the century, when the largest number of freedmen in America were in Baltimore. Okay?
Tell them again.
Come on now.
The largest number of freed blacks prior to the Civil War were here in Baltimore. So that means that Baltimore was the jump off.
Baltimore was the jump off. Baltimore was a jump off because you had, listen, when you look at the black churches, you see the black church, people don't realize, man, the movements that are successful start in the churches and go to the street. They don't start in the street and go to the churches. They started in the churches and went to the street. The churches had the power. We own the buildings. Every time the Jewish community would leave something, a building of some kind of value or something, the black community bought it up. Look at the sisters, man, who bought the former YWCA and set up the first YWCA for African American women. I look at the mosque, man, that was formerly a Jewish synagogue.
What mosque?
The one where I think it's in, where is it? Right opposite Druid Park, the big building on the corner.
Right on the corner, Gwynns Falls and Arkentrally.
Yeah.
So yeah. John Milton Wesley, what was your favorite thing to write about?
I always tell people, Donnie, and I may have told you this first, write about something you know. There's somebody in your family that inspires you. There is somebody in your family. There is a teacher, an aunt, uncle, somebody who inspires you. So the first thing that, my first major piece that I guess you would say went viral was a piece called Sunchild. And that piece was about my grandfather and growing up with my grandfather. Okay. And so that was one of the first pieces. And then, of course, Sunchild, I actually wrote it in 1976. I'd been invited to read at Folger Shakespeare Theater, and I wanted to write about for the centennial celebration. But when I set out to do it, I realized that I never knew my father. So I wrote that about my grandfather, who was in my life my father. So, and once I did it, then it was picked up first. I think it was published in Mississippi Writers, and then Black Southern Voices, and then went to Europe, and But yeah, my favorite subject is to write about our people. I like connecting the dots. I can connect it. Hiram Revel was the first, black senator, but where did he start? He started on Pennsylvania Avenue, man. He went back to Mississippi, but he started on Pennsylvania Avenue.
You can't, look, you can't just throw in Hiram Revel's name. First of all, you got to tell them who Hiram Revels was.
But he was a Republican. He was the first black senator.
The first black senator.
Black senator.
Down there by the School for the Arts, there's a building. That's not all he was. He was a Republican.
Right.
He was a minister.
That's right.
A college administrator.
Right.
He was the first black senator. Right. So look, down there by School for the Arts, there's a building with his name on it.
Of course it is, Donnie. Of course it is.
But here's the thing. He was from Mississippi.
Right.
Well, actually, he was born in North Carolina, but he was Mississippi's Secretary of State. And so when I'm walking in downtown Baltimore and I see this building, Hiram Revels, I'm saying to myself, how the hell he get a building up here in Baltimore?
Yeah. See? Yeah. Because he was down there hanging around Bethel and Union Baptist, man. I mean, that's where they all started, right? I mean, that was Baltimore was where the leaders came from that established, that built black faith.
We don't know the history in Baltimore, do we?
Oh, we don't have a clue. I've always said about the people of Baltimore, if they knew their history, if they knew just how rich. I mean, it is no accident, man, that Oprah came to Baltimore and launched from here. I mean, look at Reginald Lewis, man. Reginald Lewis invented, I said he invented bundling here in Baltimore, bundling. And then bundling became a model. Now they bundle commercials, now they bundle businesses. Okay. But Reginald Lewis did bundling before anybody knew what it was about, which is why he was able to buy Beatrice, because they didn't really understand what he was doing. Okay. Like, wait a minute, why is he buying all these little old failed companies and putting them together? He just kept adding them together. When they knew anything, he had an empire, man. He had an empire. The brother was extraordinary.
He was a Dunbar poet, too. When I left Poly, my friends at Poly say, oh, you going to Dunbar? And I've come to learn that Poly created the first doctors. Dunbar had the first doctors, scientists, inventors. The man that created Palmolive dishwashing liquid toothpaste.
Right.
Straight out of Dunbar.
Straight out of Dunbar, man.
And not one cat at Poly got a museum named after him in Baltimore.
Well, hey, come on now, Donnie. Okay, we getting there. We got. Hey, Donnie, that's our job. You see, that's why there's so much more work to be done, man. That's our job. Our job is to build the monuments and also to share with young people, man. We have to let young people know what their lineage is. And I believe if we let them know what their lineage is, they will realize their own greatness, man.
So, who was your favorite mayor to work for?
Ah, interesting, interesting.
Now we're gonna take Brandon Scott off the table because he's the current mayor, and I don't think that would be fair.
Well, let me just say, one of the great things I like about working for Brandon is that Brandon has helped me uh, polish all the things that I learned from the other mayors, you know, because keep in mind, those other mayors didn't have the benefit of new media. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have all that stuff. So when you look at the ability to handle uh, what it takes to run a major city, okay, Donnie is one of the youngest mayor that I've ever worked for. Okay, so when I look at his ability to master a major city and hold his own with his older counterparts. I like working for the brother. I mean, hey, I'll tell you something about him, but don't try to get out in front of it now, okay? Okay, because he don't play that, okay. But at the same time, if you have a bright idea, a good idea that can improve the quality of life in the city, when you take it to Brandon Scott, he listens. I give him that.
How do we grow more writers?
Well, we grow more writers by helping them to understand the value of the craft. And this is one of the breaks that I have with just plain spoken word people. I'm an old school guy. I studied under, as I say, Margaret Walker Alexander. But I'm so happy to say that by studying the masters, Donnie, okay, that I've been published in Black Southern Voices as Frederick Douglass, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Margaret Walker Alexander. And I was very young when I was published with them. Okay, when John Oliver Killings put me in Black Southern Voices, I was like, I don't know, in my early 20s, man, when he did that. So I think that we teach them by letting them see see, I tell young people, whatever you're doing, whatever you're going to do, being able to do writing, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Give my grandmama there. Reading, writing, and arithmetic is very important. All of the music that I do, Donnie, although I went through undergrad school on a vocal music scholarship, I could never play and sing at the same time. So how did I learn to do it? I learned to do it by ear. So how do I do it now? And how have I played Meriwether Post and Jazz on the Waterfront and did music from the Genoa Network of China, French TV3. It's all by numbers, done. The song is a number, the tempo is a number, the instrument is a number. Okay, so I would sometimes bring a kid up on the stage who can't play, and who thinks he can't play, and I'll say, okay, go here and put in 32, and go here and put in 47, and go over here and put the tempo in 68. Okay, and they will do that, and I will show them how to play a seventh chord, and all of a sudden they're playing music. Okay, so I just think that it is our job to take the talents and the skills that we have, but don't just start from where you are now. Let them know where you started back there. I often tell people, yeah, I play two Yamahas now and got a bow sound. Something. Hey, none. I started with a Casio piano in my basement with the microphone on a coat hanger around my neck, man. And I had one song and one chord and one key. At the key of C, a seventh chord and one song. Okay. And I went on from that to all other stuff. But kids need to know that you can do it. I mean, it's like, I remember when I would think, I know the bass player I want, I want the keyboard player I want, I want the saxophone player I want. And God kept saying to me, just do what I'm telling you, and I'll show you how to do all that. And now playing two keyboards, I can play all those instruments at the same time.
I'm going to run this past you and see if you can tell me who wrote this. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Lies, lies, bless the Lord. Don't you know the days abroad? If you don't get up, you scamp, there'll be trouble in this camp. Take Iguan to let you sleep while it makes you bored and keep. That's a pretty howdy do. Don't you hear me, lies you?
You got me, Daddy.
Paul Lance Dunbar.
Okay. I just spoke about him a couple of weeks ago when I spoke to DPW for Black History Month. I talked about, Paul Lance Dunbar was the first African American to get national attention as a poet, man. I mean, well, not worldwide.
He and I share the same birthday.
Oh, really?
Matter of fact, when I went to Dunbar, the principal, Paul Lance Dunbar, and I all shared the same birthday. Elsie Gladden. You don't remember Elsie Gladden, do you?
I just remember the name, Donnie.
Yeah, that was Lisa Gladden's daddy.
Ah, okay. I know Lisa. Oh, yeah. I knew Lisa. Yeah.
And them people up there in the 41st district just gave away that seat that Lisa Gladden had. They gave it to the Jewish lady. Them black people, thanks to the leadership and foolishness of people. I ain't gonna call no names on a Monday morning. You want me to call names?
Don't call no names, man.
I will bust a cap on a Monday morning. Black people up there voting for somebody else besides their own community. What's wrong with us, brother?
Well, I think
it's a damn shame. Slavery over.
Well, somebody had
learned
an
nothing
idea.
from Willie Lynch, man.
Somebody had an idea, Donnie. You know what I mean? That's somebody had an idea, and that's the one that won over at the time.
Here's a young man that comes to mind, C.D. Witherspoon.
Oh yeah.
You and y'all birthday around the same time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a Sag.
Yeah. Yeah, CD is still around. He's still working in the community, man.
I used to push CD to do some writing. He used to get mad at me, but he later thanked me. That pen is a powerful thing.
Yes, sir.
That pen opened up so many doors for me. Because a lot of people get in the media and they want to be in front of the camera. But somebody got to write everything that you say on TV. Somebody got to write it.
That's right.
What do you love about writing?
Huh?
What do you love about writing?
Well, I like the fact that it gives me an opportunity to communicate with large numbers of people. I've had the pleasure of being published in the Washington Post, the Sun, the LA Times, the International Herald Tribune. I like the fact that it allows me to share voices. I just wrote a piece, Donnie, that I'm shopping now, and it's called "The Constitution: The Last Unopened Parachute for America's Middle Class and the Poor," because that's where we are. But I like being able to not only say that, but give the basis for saying that. And when we talk about the Constitution being the last unopened parachute as we descend into chaos, what do you mean? Well, it means that we use the courts and we use our lessons that we learn.
These people don't believe in no courts. No sooner as we catch up, it's like playing basketball on a 10-foot rim, and people like Trump and Elon Muskie, isn't that his name? Elon Muskie, like Muskie underarms. They go and change the goal to 10-5, 11 feet. Now the goal 13 feet. But the thing is, you know who get hurt the most when they do all of this changing? It ain't black people. Black people
Right.
used to this chicanery.
Right.
It's
Right.
white people. White people get messed up the most.
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the biggest surprises of what we are experiencing right now. You know, we're looking at what's happening to the greater portion of the middle class. You
Dad, they gonna learn what a can of Spam is.
know. Yeah, a can of sardines too, Donnie, for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or some Vienna sausages. You about to find out. What the young people say, you gonna F around and find out.
Yeah, we used to call them hyenas.
Yeah.
Down south, we call them hyenas.
What do you think of this ugly American syndrome? I mean, the president of Ukraine comes to this country, and you got a little pissant like J.D. Vance telling him he need to kiss the president's ring.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I look at where this schedule
I
is
wanted
going,
to reach through that television screen and whoop his hind parts.
well, Donnie, imagine what it looks like. You know, I'm one of those kids who hid under my desk in the '60s when the missiles were in Cuba.
J.D. Vance wouldn't have been fighting for you.
No, well, you know, when I
He'd
look
been
at
on the
that,
sideline running his damn mouth.
well, there are a lot of people doing that, Donnie. But we, you know, we have this inherent power as a people, man. You know, I was reading a Bible this morning, and you know, some of the stuff, you know, Second Corinthians, you know, our weapons are not carnal. You know, we have other weapons, and we have to use those weapons.
I
man.
disagree. I think J.D. Vance, if I had to wave a wand, I would take him back to when he was 8 years old. Trump too. I would take him down to Mississippi, have Fannie Lou send him out back. What'd they tell you down there? Go bring me that switch back.
Go give me a switch.
That's what they need. See, that's what they never got. J.D.
Right.
Vance, Donald Trump, they never got their ass whipped.
Well, you know,
He
They may
needed
have
my
had-
daddy for 5 minutes. That's all he needed. He'd be a totally different young person.
well, that is difficult. You know, remember what Christ said about the rich man. You know, and
They're
the
not
island.
rich though. They are so poor. They have no spirit.
Exactly.
They got things. They digging up the moon. I wish they leave the moon alone too. The moon ain't bothering nobody.
Well, you know, these things too shall pass, Donnie. This is just a phase that we're in as a country, man.
Yeah, but the rest of the world is coming to hate us.
Yeah, well, we're siding with the other people, Donnie. You know, when in the history of this country have we sided with people like North Korea? You know, people like Putin. You know, I mean, this is
Unbelievable.
right. Well, that's what makes civil rights so important, man. That's why I'm so happy that I'm here in Baltimore and I'm working in civil rights, man. I'm so happy to be on the city's team for that, because we can connect the dots and we can get through this, Donnie. We can listen. If I survive less than Maddox, Ross Barnett, you know, was George Wallace, hey. These people are just, you know, they are a tenth of what these guys were, and they had absolute power.
I was embarrassed at how they talked to the Ukrainian president. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to see the Ukrainian president and Trump go head up. Just put him up. You keep running your mouth. Just put him up.
Well, you know, I looked at the optics of that. You know, the fact that Trump would push his shoulder, how close he put his fingers to his face when he spoke.
Trump would have got his hind parts whipped on Pennsylvania Avenue, son.
Right. Well, We have to be. We have to observe, Donnie. We have to observe. We have to be observant. We have to be aware.
See, we don't like bullies. I don't like bullies. I don't like bullies. Fight somebody your size.
Well, yeah.
One thing Baltimore has taught me that the only thing a bully understands, and I can hear Maria Broom out there. No, Donnie, you gotta be more peaceful. The only thing a bully understands is a alley apple. You don't know about no alley apples, do you?
Yeah, I know about alley apples. I know about being taken to the barn too. So, I know about being taken to the barn. But hey, man, I got to do some work too.
Good deal. Thank you for joining us this morning, John Milton Wesley. You got to leave us with some of your pros. You got to share something with us before you go.
Well, let me see here. I'll tell you what I'll share with you. Just the first paragraph of my piece, "The Constitution, the last unopened parachute." The Trump administration's second term is marked by sweeping job cutbacks disproportionately, affecting middle class and poor Americans. While economic downturns and job market shifts are not uncommon, the aggressive rollbacks of worker protection, deregulation of industries, and corporate tax breaks at the expense of social programs under this administration create a stark divide between the privileged elite and struggling working families. With safety nets slashed and opportunities dwindling, the Constitution remains the last unopened parachute for the middle class and the poor, a tool not yet fully yielded in the fight for economic justice.
Thank you, John Milton Wesley. We appreciate you joining us, and thank you for mentoring me for a couple of years now.
Hey, brother. Glad to be with you, man. Glad to be with you. Proud of you, too.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care of yourself.
Good morning, world.